Ever feel like you're just spinning plates? Work, family, the news, like you're always on the back foot, just reacting to whatever's thrown at you.
Oh yeah, constantly. I think most people feel that way these days.
Right, and then you start looking for like a solid framework or something, some way to handle all of it without losing your mind. But
Without needing to, like, escape to a monastery for 10 years.
exactly. And what's funny is one of the most popular approaches right now, it's not some newfangled life hack, it's this ancient philosophy,
Yeah.
Stoicism.
Stoicism, yeah.
I bet you're picturing some emotionless robot,
Yeah.
right? Someone who just like grins and bears it no matter what.
Yeah, that's the stereotype, isn't it? But actual Stoicism, it's way more interesting and dynamic than that.
Way more. So this deep dive, we're not turning you into Spock.
Good, because that would be difficult.
We really would. But seriously, we're going to explore what Stoicism really is, where it came from, who the big thinkers were, and most importantly, how it can actually help you today.
I think people will be surprised how relevant it is.
Truly, it's like an ancient mental operating system, but shockingly compatible with 21st century problems.
That's a good way to put it. We're going to unpack the core principles, show how this age-old wisdom can offer real, practical tools.
Tools you can use starting right now. So, what is Stoicism? It's definitely more than just keeping a stiff upper lip.
Right. It's not about expressing all emotion. It's a practical philosophy. It's about living well in the fullest sense. It's about cultivating wisdom. Wisdom to navigate life with virtue, inner peace, resilience, and with clarity. Clarity about what truly matters.
Okay, virtue, inner peace. Those are nice words. But how do you actually achieve that? In the real world, I mean, where things are messy.
Well, the Stoics, they had some key interconnected ideas. First, they placed immense value on virtue. Wisdom, justice, courage, self-control. They saw these as the ultimate source of good.
As in, being a good person is the most important thing.
Yes, and that genuine happiness, genuine fulfillment, those flow from living virtuously, no matter what your external circumstances might be. So inner peace is not the absence of problems. It comes from this virtuous way of being. Resilience comes from understanding what you can and can't control. And clarity, that comes from reasoned, focused judgment.
So it's not about not feeling things like frustration or sadness. It's about how you understand those feelings, how you respond to them and to the world.
Exactly. Stoics were very clear. Emotions are part of being human. They didn't want to eliminate them. They wanted to understand them to prevent them from, well, hijacking our judgments and actions.
That makes sense. But how do you do that?
They had three overlapping areas of practice: perception, action, and will.
Okay, break those down for me. Perception, that's like how we see the world, right?
Exactly. Striving for clear, accurate judgment right now, in this moment. It means being aware of our first impressions, our initial thoughts, reactions, before we jump to conclusions or let those initial responses carry us away.
Oh, I do that all the time.
We all do. One Stoic thinker said it beautifully. The first and greatest task of the philosopher is to test and separate appearances.
Meaning, don't take things at face value.
Exactly. We have to distinguish between what things actually are and how they appear to us. So perception is about getting that initial understanding right.
So how does that connect to action?
Action is how we behave in the world, especially in relation to others. Stoicism emphasizes acting for the common good, fulfilling your duties, living out virtues like fairness and justice in how you interact with people.
So it's about ethical behavior, contributing to society. Okay, what about will? I tend to think of willpower, forcing yourself to do things.
It is related to inner strength. But in Stoicism, will is more about acceptance, even gratitude for things that happen, especially those outside your control. It's aligning your desires with what you actually can influence. Cultivating contentment regardless of the external situation. Choosing your response to what life throws at you.
I can see how those three work together. Clear perception, ethical action, accepting what you can't change.
Yeah.
That creates a solid way of being. And accepting what you can't control, that feels like a big part of Stoicism.
It's absolutely fundamental. They drew a very clear distinction between what's in your power and what's not.
In my power versus...
Not in your power, in your control. Your thoughts, judgments, intentions, desires, aversions, your internal responses.
And not in my control.
Things like your body, your possessions, what other people think or do, external events in general. The Stoics considered these outside your direct, complete control.
So focus your energy on that inner realm, the stuff you can actually affect.
Precisely. That's where your true freedom lies. You can't dictate the weather or make someone be nice to you, but you can choose how you interpret those things, how you respond. Tranquility, the Stoics believed, comes from recognizing this boundary, putting your effort where it matters, trying to control what you can't. That just leads to frustration and anxiety.
But what about the external stuff? Our health, our jobs. Are you saying it doesn't matter?
Not exactly. They said externals aren't inherently good or bad. It's our judgments about them that give them value. They called these things indifference.
Indifference, like, I should be indifferent to whether I'm healthy or not.
It means those things don't automatically make you morally good or bad. Having wealth doesn't make you virtuous. Lacking it doesn't make you evil. But they did make a distinction between preferred indifference. Things that are generally beneficial, like health, wealth, a good reputation. Reasonable to pursue as long as you do so virtuously without clinging too tightly. You should use them wisely when you have them. And then there are dispreferred indifference, like sickness, poverty, a bad reputation, things you'd naturally try to avoid. But their presence shouldn't shatter your inner peace, shouldn't make you act without virtue.
So, hold those things lightly. They have value, but your happiness shouldn't depend on them. Sounds like this takes a lot of self-awareness, a lot of inner work.
It does. The Stoics emphasize training in 3 areas: managing desires and aversions, not craving what's out of reach, not fearing what's inevitable. Second, guiding your impulses to act or not act. Align those with your duties and with virtue. And third, most crucial, cultivating freedom from deception, maintaining composure in your judgments, especially when strong emotions come up.
Okay, so it's not about feeling nothing. It's about wisdom and resilience in the face of challenge. All this, it's pretty profound. Where did this even come from?
It has a deep history. Stoicism has its roots in ancient Greece, ancient Rome, starting in Athens, late 4th, early 3rd century BCE.
Any big names from those early days?
There were influences, earlier philosophies, but the founder is usually considered to be Zeno of Citium.
Zeno. Okay, I don't know that one.
He was a merchant. He experienced a shipwreck, ended up in Athens, and started developing his own philosophical school. He taught in a public colonnade called the Stoa Poikile.
And that's where the name comes from, the Stoa.
Exactly. So it started in Greece, then its influence spread to Rome.
Became popular with the Romans.
Very much so. Over the centuries, Stoicism became influential throughout Greece and Rome, resonated with all sorts of people, from slaves to emperors.
Wow, across the social spectrum.
It really did. It was a dominant school of thought for hundreds of years.
So what happened? Why did it fade?
Well, philosophies evolve, schools of thought rise and fall, happens all the time. The specific school declined, but the ideas didn't vanish completely. The word Stoic stuck around, but
But it got simplified.
yes, it became shorthand for unemotional, which misses the nuance.
But people kept reading the original stuff.
Absolutely. Key Stoic writings, they continued to be read, studied, admired by influential people throughout history. Thinkers, writers, politicians, even military leaders found value in these perspectives on resilience, virtue, self-control, living a meaningful life.
So it stayed relevant, even if the formal school didn't.
Very much so. That engagement with the text, it highlights the enduring power of the ideas.
Makes you wonder what truths they were tapping into. You mentioned some of the thinkers, the great minds of Stoicism. Can we dive into who they were, what they contributed?
Of course. There are 3 figures whose writings survived and are still studied today: Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius.
Let's start with Seneca. Who was he?
A prominent Roman statesman, he was Nero's tutor, advisor, and a very wealthy man. His letters, essays, they offer profound insights into time, virtue, and how we become enslaved by our attachment
Enslaved.
to external things. He wrote a lot about the brevity of life, how much time we waste on trivial worries. He stressed that true freedom comes from within, not from your circumstances.
Sounds like he knew what he was talking about.
He did. He understood that wealth doesn't equal peace of mind. Now, Epictetus.
Okay, I've heard that name before.
Epictetus has a particularly interesting story. He was born a slave, lived much of his life in servitude, but he became a highly respected Stoic teacher after gaining his freedom.
That's an incredible journey.
It is. His philosophy emphasizes what's up to us, our choices, actions versus what's not. His teachings, recorded by his student in the Discourses and the Enchiridion, they focus intensely on inner resilience, managing your impressions, accepting what you can't control. His experiences clearly shaped his very practical approach.
Faced hardship and found wisdom in it. Powerful stuff. And the third one, Marcus Aurelius. Wasn't he an emperor?
Yes, Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD. His Meditations, that's probably the best-known Stoic text today. They're not formal philosophy, though. They're his personal reflections, reminders he wrote in his journals to guide himself, stay grounded amidst the pressures of being emperor.
An emperor using philosophy to stay sane. That says something.
He reflects on duty, living in accordance with nature and reason, interconnectedness, our moral compass. It's remarkable that someone in his position turned to these ideas.
It is. A statesman, a former slave, an emperor, all finding wisdom in the same philosophy. It must be pretty universal. But how does this ancient stuff actually help us today in our stressful, chaotic world?
That's the key question, isn't it? And the beauty of Stoicism is it's surprisingly relevant. Think about it. Information overload, pressure to achieve, comparing ourselves to others, uncertainty about the future. These are exactly the challenges Stoic principles can address.
So how do we apply them? How do we take these old ideas and use them in our 21st century lives?
The circle of control is a great place to start. We face countless situations that trigger stress. By consciously deciding what you can influence your thoughts, reactions, effort, and what you can't, other people's behavior, the outcome of events you can direct your energy more effectively, reduces that feeling of helplessness. It's about focusing inward, rather than trying to control externals.
Don't waste energy on what you can't change. Makes sense. What about our desires and aversions?
The Stoics were big on that. Ruthless self-examination. Focus on what's truly essential for a virtuous life. Detach from wanting things outside your control. Seneca said, master your desires lest they master you.
Powerful. So it's not about denying desires. It's about
Choosing them wisely, being mindful of what you crave, what you fear, and asking, is this serving me? Or is it causing unnecessary distress? They understood our judgments about events, more than the events themselves, are what cause turmoil, like Epictetus said. People are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them.
So be conscious of where you focus. And living in the present moment, that's a big one, right?
Huge. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly with justice. Dwelling on the past, worrying about the future, steals your peace, your ability to act now. Focus on the present task, present choices. You become more mindful, more effective, more content.
So much of our society is obsessed with the past or future. We miss the now. I've also read about this idea, premeditatio malorum, thinking about bad things that could happen. Isn't that kind of pessimistic?
Might seem that way, but it's not about dwelling on negativity. It's mental preparation, contemplating potential misfortunes, but in a detached, analytical way. It lessens their impact if they do occur, makes you appreciate what you have.
Like a mental fire drill.
Exactly. What if this happened? How would I cope? What resources do I have? It actually reduces anxiety because you realize you're more resilient than you thought. They also framed it as remembering impermanence, that what we value isn't guaranteed to last.
Interesting. And virtue was central to Stoicism. How do we apply that in everyday life?
Stoics believed living virtuously, honesty, integrity, courage, kindness, that's the ultimate good, the only thing truly in your control. Even when things are tough, you can choose to act virtuously. This shifts your focus from external outcomes, which are often uncertain, to your internal character, which you can cultivate. They talked about living in accordance with nature, which means our rational nature as humans, our social nature, and the larger order of the universe.
Acting in harmony with reason, with our interconnectedness.
Ye-
That's a high bar. Yeah. Did they have any practical exercises to actually develop these things?
Oh, yes. Practice was key. Journaling, for one. At the end of the day, review your actions, thoughts. Where did you act virtuously? Where did you fall short? What can you improve? Also, having a personal mantra, a short phrase that sums up a Stoic principle, can help maintain focus. And for breaking bad habits, some even tracked their progress for momentum and self-awareness.
I like the journaling idea, a way to really engage with it. But what about when we hit obstacles? Our first instinct is usually to get discouraged.
The Stoics had a great perspective on that. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles aren't just blocks. They're opportunities for growth, for practicing patience, resilience, for finding creative solutions. You shift your perspective, see difficulties as potential pathways to becoming stronger.
I love that. Turn adversity into fuel. It seems like self-awareness is key to all of this.
Absolutely crucial. They valued self-examination, questioning assumptions, judgments. Epictetus said, recognizing your own weaknesses is the beginning of philosophy. Be vigilant against self-deception. Constantly examine your beliefs and reactions. Understand your triggers, your tendencies. That's the first step to managing them. And remember, your emotions often come from your interpretations, not just the events themselves.
It's an ongoing process, then, of self-reflection, learning, improving. But what about when, even with effort, things just don't go our way? Setbacks, failures, they're part of life.
The Stoics say focus on the process, your intentions, your effort, your virtuous response. Not just the outcome, which you may not be able to control. You won't always get the results you want, but you can choose how you approach the situation, how you react. Do your best, act virtuously, accept the outcome. They also found value in seeking different perspectives. Helps you understand things more broadly, not get fixated on one viewpoint.
This has been so insightful. Stoicism really does offer a toolkit for modern life.
It's a timeless framework for resilience, focus, finding peace and purpose, no matter what's happening around you. It's about building that inner citadel of strength and wisdom.
As you go through your day and you start feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, ask yourself, where can I apply this? Where can I focus on what is in my control? How can I shift my attention inward to find more peace? Maybe it's a reaction to traffic, a tough situation at work, a difficult conversation. And if this deep dive has piqued your interest, I highly recommend picking up the works of Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. Their wisdom is still incredibly relevant today.
It really is. Stoicism offers a path to greater resilience, clarity, and inner peace. By understanding and practicing these principles, you can face life's challenges with more courage, wisdom, and contentment.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.